There's a strange feeling floating around right now that a lot of people can't quite put into words, but they feel it anyway. It's the sense that Sydney Sweeney isn't just having a good year. She isn't just landing roles. She isn't just benefiting from lucky timing. It feels more deliberate than that. Almost calculated. Almost familiar. And once that thought settles in, it becomes hard to unsee. Because if you zoom out and look at how fast Sydney has gone from popular actress to completely unavoidable, the pattern starts to resemble a playbook we've seen before. A playbook that didn't just create fame. It created power, influence, cultural dominance. A playbook that turned one woman into a billionaire household name. And if this theory is right, Sydney isn't just rising, she's being positioned. Slowly, intentionally, strategically. Over the last few years, Sydney Sweeney's presence has exploded in a way that feels almost unnatural. She's everywhere at the same time. Major films, streaming hits, fashion campaigns, beauty deals, magazine covers, viral interviews, red carpets that somehow always end up circulating longer than everyone else's. It isn't just volume, it's consistency. There's no long gap between projects, no quiet season, no cool-down period. Every time one conversation starts to fade, another one appears right behind it. People didn't slowly warm up to Sydney. She flooded the culture. And when something happens that fast, it usually isn't accidental. Fans started pointing out how her name suddenly appeared in casting rumors for everything. Big studio films, prestige dramas, franchise conversations, even projects that felt completely outside her original lane. At the same time, brands began lining up. Not niche brands, not indie brands. Mass market global brands. And then the kind of brands that only invest when they believe someone can move product at scale. That alone tells you something important. Hollywood doesn't gamble on uncertainty. Hollywood places calculated bets, which raises the uncomfortable question. What exactly is being sold? Because when you strip away the interviews, the red carpets, the promotional tours, and the press headlines, Sydney's public image has narrowed into something very specific. Hyper-feminine, hyper-visible, hyper-discussed. A modern version of the classic bombshell repackaged for social media culture. Old Hollywood sex appeal mixed with Gen Z accessibility. Polished enough to feel aspirational, relatable enough to feel reachable. That combination is not random. It's the same formula that once launched a reality star into global dominance. Kim Kardashian didn't start as a respected actress. She didn't start as a critical darling. She started as a figure people couldn't stop looking at. People argued about her, mocked her, judged her, consumed her. And that attention became leverage. Sydney's rise feels eerily similar, not because their careers are identical, but because their positioning is. Visibility first, conversation first, polarization first, validation later. A lot of people assume fame comes from being universally loved. It doesn't. Fame comes from being unavoidable. Outrage and praise feed the same machine. Every time someone complains about Sydney being overexposed, another person clicks. Every time someone criticizes her roles, another person searches her name. Every time a clip goes viral, even for negative reasons, the algorithm rewards it. This is the part most people don't want to admit. Backlash is fuel, and Sydney has been swimming in it. There are constant debates about whether she's being overly sexualized, whether she leans into it, whether she's boxed in, whether she's exploited, whether she benefits from it. Those arguments never end, which is exactly why they're useful. Because while people fight about meaning, perception, and intention, her visibility keeps growing. Silently, relentlessly. This is where the Kim Kardashian comparison gets uncomfortable. Kim built an empire by understanding one core truth before almost anyone else. If people are talking about you, you already won. It didn't matter if they respected her. It didn't matter if critics rolled their eyes. It didn't matter if people called her talentless. The conversation itself was the product. Sydney seems to be walking into the same territory. Not as a reality star, not as an influencer, but as a cinematic version of the same idea. Be the face people argue about. Be the image people circulate. Be the name that triggers reactions. Once you become that person, opportunity starts chasing you. And that's exactly what's happening. But here's where it gets more complicated. Sydney has publicly spoken about feeling uncomfortable with being reduced to her body. She's talked about wanting to be taken seriously. She's expressed frustration with being boxed into certain roles. And those statements feel genuine. They probably are. But they also create a very interesting contradiction. Because despite acknowledging the problem, her career continues to move in the exact same direction. Sexy roles. Sexually charged marketing, images that dominate headlines, photo shoots designed to go viral, projects that lean heavily into physical appeal. Both things can be true at once. She can dislike being boxed in and still participate in the system that rewards it. That isn't hypocrisy. It's survival inside a machine that doesn't offer many alternatives. Hollywood still prioritizes desirability as a shortcut, for women especially. Being wanted opens doors faster than being respected. That's the ugly truth nobody likes saying out loud. Sydney didn't invent this dynamic, she stepped into it. And she's benefiting from it. Just like Kim did. Another layer that makes this strategy more effective is relatability. Sydney often frames herself as someone who struggled financially. Someone who almost quit acting. Someone who worries about money. Someone who feels misunderstood. Those stories humanize her. They soften the backlash. They create empathy. People start rooting for her, even while criticizing her. That emotional contradiction keeps audiences invested. Kim did the same thing in her early years. Luxury lifestyle on one side? Nah, I'm just a normal girl trying to figure it out on the other. The contrast makes the audience feel closer, like they're watching a real person navigate chaos instead of a carefully manufactured brand. But underneath all of this is a bigger shift happening inside Hollywood. Studios are quietly searching for the next generation of bankable faces. Not just talented, not just respected, but easily marketable. Easy to sell globally, easy to package into campaigns, easy to drop into franchises. Youth plays a massive role in that. So does adaptability. So does lack of complicated history. Sydney fits that perfectly. She doesn't come with decades of baggage. She doesn't have a long list of public scandals. She doesn't have an identity people feel exhausted by yet. She still feels new. That gives studios flexibility. It also creates a silent tension, because when new stars rise, older ones lose leverage. Not overnight, not publicly, but gradually. Offers change, budgets shift, attention drifts, and this is where things get awkward. Because Sydney's rise isn't happening in isolation. It's happening while multiple legacy figures are clearly struggling to maintain their grip on relevance. You can feel the industry recalibrating. You can see it in casting choices, in marketing priorities, in who gets pushed to the front. Hollywood doesn't announce power shifts, it just enacts them. Quietly, and people notice. Fans have started noticing that Sydney's name appears in conversations where other established stars used to dominate. That doesn't mean those stars are over, but it does mean the center of gravity is moving. Which brings us to the risk of this entire blueprint. The same playbook that creates massive visibility also has a built-in expiration date. Hypersexual branding works fast, it spreads quickly, it grabs attention. But it's difficult to evolve. Once the public locks you into a specific image, breaking out of it becomes 10 times harder. Kim spent years trying to transition from reality star to respected businesswoman. Even now, people still question her legitimacy. Megan Fox experienced something similar. Pamela Anderson did too. They became icons, but they also became trapped. Sydney is approaching that fork in the road much earlier than most people realize. Right now, she still has flexibility. She can choose riskier roles. She can chase prestige projects. She can slowly shift perception. Or she can lean deeper into what's currently working. The second option is easier. The first option is necessary for longevity. What makes this moment fascinating is that you can already see both paths forming. She takes dramatic roles, then follows them with highly sexualized campaigns. She talks about wanting serious respect, then appears in projects that reinforce the exact stereotype she says she dislikes. It feels unresolved, like she's standing in between two identities, which is usually the most dangerous place to be. Because indecision gets exploited by systems that only care about profit. Hollywood will happily keep pushing the version of you that sells best, whether you personally want that or not. And this is where the Kim Kardashian parallel becomes impossible to ignore. Kim didn't escape the machine. She mastered it. But mastering it came with consequences. Relentless scrutiny, permanent skepticism, a brand that will always be questioned. Sydney may be walking toward the same reality, not because she's copying Kim consciously, but because she's operating inside the same incentive structure. Visibility over comfort, conversation over control, momentum over meaning. The unsettling truth is this: Hollywood doesn't reward innocence. It doesn't reward purity. It doesn't reward people who wait patiently to be discovered for their depth. It rewards people who understand attention. Early, Sydney understands attention, whether she loves it or not, whether she's conflicted about it or not, whether she fully realizes the long-term cost or not. That awareness alone separates her from thousands of talented actresses who never break through. So no, this isn't about hating Sydney Sweeney. It isn't about accusing her of manipulation. It isn't about pretending she doesn't work hard. She does. It's about recognizing a familiar pattern playing out in real time. A pattern we've already seen create empires. A pattern we've also seen swallow people whole. The question isn't whether Sydney is becoming the next Kim Kardashian. The real question is whether she'll be able to do what Kim never truly did: outgrow the blueprint that made her famous. Because the same strategy that opens the door can quietly lock it behind you. And once that happens, no amount of talent alone is enough to break free.